This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. Mahalo. And by Atlas Insurance Agency, Hawaii's largest professional agency, helping Hawaii navigate insurance solutions since 1929. More at atlasinsurance.com.
Hello, my kako. Welcome to a new episode of What School You Went? Start every conversation with that question. I'm Ron Mizutani, and today we're going to be talking story with the man with a chisel, or even, I'm not sure what your tool is, but who's responsible for getting Shaka Sana, Tutu Mele, and close to 50 other sculptures ready for the holidays. I want to welcome sculptor Alex Ching, Special Services Section Coordinator from the city's Parks, Maintenance, and Recreation Services to PBS Hawaii. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, no, good to have you here, Alex, and thank you for making time for us. I know it's a busy time. Before I go any further, like I ask every guest, what school you went?
Okay, I always preface that question with, I used to go to IAEA up into intermediate, and my dad was working for Continental Airlines at the time, which went bankrupt back in the 1980s. So he wanted to stay with the company. And they said, well, if you want to stay, we're going to move you to the mainland. So I ended up going to high school in Houston, Texas.
Oh, my gosh.
Eisenhower High School. Real culture shock for me.
I bet.
I'm the only Chinese person there, except for my brother.
So Eisenhower High School?
Yes.
Named after our president,
yes,
obviously.
Yes.
What was your mascot's name? You remember?
Eagles.
The Eagles?
Yeah.
All right. Kind of like HBA then.
Yes.
Another city employee working closely with the mayor, went to HBA. Sing me a verse of your alma mater.
I have no idea. It wasn't the greatest. I mean, I had been living in Hawaii all the way up into, 8th grade, and it was such a culture shock. I just hated moving to the mainland. It was a nice place. I made friends and everything, but I really, really loved living in Hawaii. I felt like, I was ripped out from my roots and lost all my friends. I mean, I still keep touch with some of them, but I feel like during that tender teenage years, I really lost a lot. And, eventually make new friends. I came back for UH and graduated and just hopped right into the workforce. But
wow, good for you. Yeah. You found your way back home then.
Yes.
Yeah. Continental, the only way to fly. That was wasn't that their slogan at one time?
Oh, maybe.
Back in the... Sorry, maybe I'm showing my age, but yeah. Hey, thank you again, Alex, for being here. I can only imagine. I mean, we're already in November. That you and your dedicated team, very busy getting ready for the annual celebration at Honolulu Hale. When does the work start for you, or does it continue 365?
Well, actually, I came to this this interview because nobody else has the knowledge. I started way back in the 1990s, and I grew up with this project with a bunch of people, and, here I am 31 years later, and it's like I'm probably, one of the dinosaurs in the department that know how things happened way back then, how to do certain things, and now just the nature of my current job, it doesn't allow me the time to go in and help, so... Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Wow, you know what you said? You 31 years working.
Yes.
In the with the city, brother. You look like you're 35 years old.
Oh, thank you.
You do. You really do. So you must have started when you were a toddler. I'm just so fascinated by Shaka Santa and Tutu Mele and all of the others. Incredible, decorations that go into and the amount of work I can only imagine just to maintain and upkeep, and I'm sure there's accidents along the way. This goes back to the Frank Fosse days when the concept first came out. Cara Costa, we just lost Carol, who's had a huge role in that for
I know,
many,
I was really
years.
close to Carol.
Yeah. What a great wahine.
I really enjoyed working with her. Yeah. When I came in, it was around 1991, and Shaka Sana was created in 1989.
Right.
So I had met her 2 years into this big program, and she was really close with my former boss who hired me, and she got to know me really well. So when he had gotten promoted, she was really hoping that I stepped into his shoes, and I did. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
I bet it has. Shaka Sano, 89, and then, but as far as Tutu Mele, she didn't come along till 19...
I want to say about 1995.
Okay,
and my
so
former boss, Mike
yeah.
Smith, he was the one that created that. I didn't have a whole lot of involvement. I did help. When I started off as a part-timer under Mike Smith, who was assisting the original sculptor, Kurt Nelson. Kurt Nelson was a contracted worker. He did Santa Claus, the gnome display, the penguins, the snow family. And then Mike Smith learned a lot from him. And at some point, I don't know who made the decision, but Mike asked if he could, take the lead on the sculpting instead of contracting it out. So he started to, network. Owen Ho was the idea man all the time. So they'd get together and talk and discuss what new things that should be made. And I think maybe 2-3 years in from Mike starting to do the sculptures, the idea of Mrs. Claus was proposed, and he did that. That was built out in a warehouse in Campbell Industrial Park.
How big is Shaka Santa and Tutu Mele?
From foot to top of his pinky, 21 feet.
2 stories high.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine, I want to get into the logistics of transporting them in a bit, but I imagine the weight is, because what are they made of?
They're made of styrofoam.
Oh, okay.
Sculpted with saws and hand shaping tools and
Amazing.
stuff. It's a decorative construction technique where you coat the styrofoam with a mixture of cement and an adhesive, and it's reinforced with fiberglass mesh. So it's a real skim coat over the sculpted styrofoam, maybe about a 1/4 inch thick at least.
Oh, so there is some weight then with the
Oh,
concrete.
yeah. I think the crane operator weighed it one time. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's at least 2,500 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and might be more with the, years of paint and repairs and stuff like that. So let's say 2,500 to, 3,000 maybe.
Wow. For both or individually?
Individual.
Wow. Okay. I know that Tutu Mele, the facelifts, if you will, or transformation of clothes and such has happened through the years. Not because Tutu Mele now has an actual mu'u on, right? And originally, she didn't have a mu'u. Tell us about that concept and how does that evolve, keeping it fresh, new paint. All of those things are just, to me, fascinating.
Yeah, so originally, I don't know if you've seen the original pictures, but there were some transformations. Like originally, Tutu Mele had her hand up waving to, cars that would pass by. But the way it was sculpted, her right arm was waving, facing the street. So it was actually blocking her face from traffic going by. So lesson learned, and the next year they cut her arm off, dropped it down. And back then she was wearing a traditional fur coat, red fur coat with the red coat, white fur. And over the years it stayed like that. And again, Owen Ho, the idea man, said, no, we got to make it local. We got to, change it over to a muumuu. And that was actually the first big project that I had. Mike Smith, the original sculptor, had gotten promoted, and I was taking his temporary assignment. And he was still coordinating with them, and they said, oh, yes, we want to change this over. And I was like, Mike, I'm just starting on your TA. I can't do this. And he was able to work something out where he still did the sculpting, and I came in to do the finish work and the paint. So there's this saying, don't design by committee, but that's actually what we do. We have all these discussions with Carol Costa, Owen Ho, this whole committee, maybe the friends suggest something. They bring it over to us, the Department of Parks and Recreation, who've always had the lead role in the sculpting. And we say, yeah, sure, we can do that. And, it's going to take time. To answer your prior question I didn't answer, usually when I start on this kind of stuff, when I was in charge, our Summer Fun program is the biggest program for Parks and Recreation. And it ends normally like end of July. So I would normally start mid-August for Christmas, depending on what the project was. If they're not making any new sculptures, later, definitely way later. But if it's a big sculpted project, hey, I got to get in there, I'll start tapering off from my regular recreation stuff and, maybe go down once or twice a week, get started, order supplies, make plans, and it'll slowly ramp up. By the time November hits, it's like, oh man, I got to be here like practically every day to get this big project done.
What a great, you see the smiles on the faces of the keiki and it's such a wonderful display. To me, I'm honestly, and I've been to New York and everything. What we have at Honolulu Hale is just simply fabulous.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like to stay behind the scenes, so I'd go down, take my family, and check it out, and I hear comments and see the smiles and stuff like that. It's really gratifying, even though it's a lot of hard work, like really hard work. It's a lot of coordination and hard work, but it's worth it in the end.
Speaking of coordination, I imagine, 21 foot times 2,500 pounds, it takes an army, and I know it takes a convoy and a police escort even to get both of them to Honolulu Hale safely and in one piece. and I know it's a secret location where you launch from or leave from, although I understand there's been some theft through the years. So not so secret. But tell us about the logistics of just making that day happen.
Oh,
and the stress level you probably feel. I was
just going to say, that's so stressful. When you do it for so many years, it's kind of like second nature. You don't have to think so much about what to do because you've done it before, but now you start to think about, okay, what can go wrong at this time, and how's my timeline, and do I have the support I need? We need like labor support, we need equipment, forklifts, boom trucks, bucket trucks, we need tractor trailers. They have low boys. Usually those are to haul like heavy equipment, and we need those because it has a lower deck, because they're so big. We have to lie Santa and Mrs. Claus down on their backs so that we can clear traffic lights and power wires. So we try to keep everything, not try. We have to keep everything under 14 feet, on the bed. Otherwise, we're going to hit stuff. And
especially over at Fort Shafter and Gillett, right?
Oh, we never take that route.
Oh, you don't? Okay, good. I was going to say, because
we always go viaduct.
Yeah, you go to the viaduct?
Yeah.
So you have your limitations, your height.
Yes,
limitations,
we do.
For sure. But there's traffic, there's people who are curious. And along the way, I'm sure there's travel mishaps. What is, maybe you can share a memory or two, not too graphic, because just in case Kiki are listening, but I'm sure that's on your mind too, because the last thing you want to do is see something bad happen and a child see it, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's going to have to be graphic, because this is the most memorable thing. We're taking down one year, and everyone wants to get everything packed away and get back to their regular jobs. It's the new year. We're short-staffed because everyone's on vacation. So we're trying to make one less large truck delivery. So we had Rudolph. And Rudolph, I'm not sure the height on the antlers, but they decided to put Rudolph over the axles instead of on the low deck because there was space. And they did, and we're going down Nimitz, and apparently we exceeded 14 feet because the antlers hooked the traffic light.
Oh my gosh.
And took his head off at his collar.
Oh, sorry.
And fell down. landed on its neck facing the support truck. The guy jammed on his brakes and couldn't stop in time and bopped him in the nose, his red nose.
Oh, no.
And there was a big guy that was in the support truck. He hopped out of his truck, grabbed Rudolph, and because it's made out of styrofoam with that thin coat of cement, he was able to just sling it over into his bed, and off we went again. So,
Well, gosh, I can only imagine if social media was alive back then.
oh no,
That would be horrific.
that was prior to 2007.
Yeah, that would go
and the
viral
event
in
of
a hurry.
iPhone and stuff. Yeah.
Oh boy! So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer lost his nose,
Oh, his whole head.
his whole head. He's so smart, yeah. Well, I'm sure there are others.
Yeah, we
yeah.
had one. Again, this. Oh, shucks. This was going. We were going down to City Hall. I was in the convoy, and one of the gnomes. Because they're made out of styrofoam. We have to figure out how to keep them sturdy as well as making them look nice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to make them supported, with all these different like wide legs, and it doesn't visually look well. So unfortunately, there's like a balance there, and we had one of the gnomes on the tree stump that kind of shook loose in transport, and we lost him at the knees on the way out to City Hall. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to, stick him back on, repair it, paint it. So I ended up chiseling him off at the feet, and I just did a quick patch job. It's supposed to be standing on a tree trunk. So I repainted the rings, and we had 2 gnomes on the top of the tree trunk instead of 3. And one of my coworker recreation directors, he had done the touch-up paint on it at the warehouse. And when he took his family down, he's like, I worked on that gnome, but I swear there are 3 up there. And he looked, and it's like, no, the tree rings are on the top of the tree stump. And then later on, he talked to me. He was like, oh, yeah, it broke. And I repaired it. He's like, oh, you did a good job, because I couldn't tell. And he was questioning his memory.
Oh, you know what? That shows the care that goes into this. I mean, people take pride in it.
Oh, yeah. And my personality is just so OCD. It's like things got to look good before we get it out there.
OCD. So, I mean, you're a sculptor. I mean, what is your talent, your craft,
it wasn't sculpting. It's just I did major in art at UH. Didn't know what I wanted to do out of high school, and I always liked art and working with my hands and stuff. So when I graduated, I got a part-time job with. I had met Mike Smith when I was in college I was working the summer fun program as a group leader. And I happened to meet him through one of our events, and we started talking, and he's like, oh, what do you do? I said, oh, I'm an art major. And he said, oh, here's my card. If you're looking for work when you graduate, because I was going to graduate that fall, he said, yeah, give me a call. He didn't know anything about me except what we talked about. But he was short-staffed. He needed help. And when I graduated, it's like, what am I gonna do? I don't know. It's an art. It wasn't even a fine arts degree or commercial art. It was just an art degree with focus in 3 areas up to the 300 level and some art history, and that was it. It was like basically a liberal arts degree focusing in art. So I had no clue what I was gonna do with that. But I needed a job. I called up Mike. He interviewed me, hired me. And that's how I found out about City Lights. I had no clue. I graduated in the fall of 90. I started working with him in 1991. Wow. And when he took me over to the warehouse, this is back at Campbell Industrial Park back in 1991. It's like, wow, this is cool. I even back then, I loved working with my hands. I'm a process person. I like to, see the development of something from, a block of styrofoam into a whole sculpture. And I young, eager to learn, and I really love the process and everything. And yeah, it just kind of evolved from there. Yeah.
What a great ride. 31 years later, you're still here.
Yeah.
Training the next team to take care of Santa and Tutu Mele. I want to ask one more question because I did some research, and I know that so Shaka, Santa, and Tutu Mele usually the first, if you will, to make it out to Honolulu Hale. It's a symbol of the holidays are here, but really it's not really a symbol, right? There's some strategy behind that. That's
by design. We want Santa and Mrs. Claus to go out first because if anything happens, we have time to repair it. And I can tell you another story.
Yes, please.
And this happened recently, I'd say within the maybe past 4 years, maybe. We take this certain route all the time. We used it for years. And we come up Alakea Street, Mauka. We turn right onto King Street, turn left on Alakea. Not Alakea, I'm sorry. Alapai. Yeah. And then left on Beretania, and we come down Punch Bowl. We take a street usage permit. We come down the wrong way, so we're against the curb to where the crane can pick them up and put them on the fountain. And I don't know, you might have heard about this episode, but the truck took the turn, same route as 20-something years prior. Apparently, trees grow. And the weight of the tree brings it lower. Santa's toe caught the tree and snapped off at maybe right below his knee and fell down. And again, this is why we planned for the very first day. The staff picked up his broken foot, and somebody reported to me, "Hey, Alex, Santa's foot hit the tree." I was like, "Oh my gosh, is it bad?" And they come walking up with the broken foot. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I think there's news footage of me carrying it somewhere, but it's like, oh shucks. But we gathered the park staff. We worked with the carpenters of the facility maintenance department. They're saying like, "Hey, we got to get this fixed. What do you need?" I was like, "Okay, I can't hold it up. I think I can do the repairs on site." So they fabricated a brace to hold the foot up in place to where I could move it, do the gluing, put it back. Once the glue dries, then it's like, okay, now I can make it cosmetically look good. I think I finished that repair within a 24-hour time period. So
there's strategy. There's reason why that happens. I always think about I think about what it takes to get both of them to Honolulu Hale in the civic grounds, and then I always think about when I was younger at Ala Moana Center. The big Santa, and how they bring it out and then they put it together. And I know that they like to do that as fast as possible because usually Santa comes out in pieces, right? And sometimes it's the head on its own. And as a child, you just don't want to see that, right? That's the last thing you want to see. And I imagine that you folks are very understanding of what that means to a child when it comes to even your own sculptures.
Yeah, we are aware of that. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Snow family, the original sculptor, Kurt Nelson, he made it so tall that the way we have it mounted and we can't lie them down. So Mr. and Mrs. Snowman the heads come separate from the bodies. But, my rationale is they're snow people. We didn't put them together yet.
Right. Perfect. Yeah. You can always do that. And it'll come to fruition and, at the end of the day, make people smile. Alex, thank you for stopping by, first of all, and sharing these stories. And I hope we can add some photos to this podcast episode because people love to see the history and all of the good and funny things that have happened through the years. But I want to also thank you for picking up, taking the baton from Mike and the team and Owen and making people smile for so many years.
Oh, glad to do it.
It's
been a pleasure working on this project for so long.
You cannot retire.
Well,
not yet. But you got to. I mean, are you grooming the next?
No, actually, through some developments in our department, the position that actually did it is not open to fill at this point. So the supervisor over that position is doing the best she can to at least get everything out there and provide the coordination and stuff. But yeah, the position is vacant right now.
Oof.
And I actually am retiring at the end of this year.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow, that's going to be a big void. Well, congratulations on retirement at the age of 35. But no, not joking. Thank you for making people smile for so many years.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, the behind the scenes folks seldom get recognition.
I don't need it. It's
I know,
just
but that's the kind of people that make the city work. It's an army filled with people who don't look for recognition every day.
Yeah.
And we thank them for their good work.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very humble. Alex Ching, the sculptor and also surgeon and all of the things doctor put together, making Shaka and Tutu Mele happen every year. And they'll be at Honolulu Hale once again. Mahalo nui for joining us, folks. Join us next week. Another episode of What School You Went. Until then, ahui ho.
What School You Went is a PBS Hawaii production. Music by Taimane Gardner. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and tell your friends. You can find us on pbshawaii.org and everywhere you get your podcasts.